a little journey or jaunt into the promised land today. This is a special treat. This is very late in the season, and the PRAEFOLIA that normally exists up there, and probably already gone into dormancy, because they usually start up much earlier. They're probably the earliest ones I've ever seen. So as you can see, plenty of native orchids on the ground here. I think I've counted up to 14 species in this area, including one I've never ever seen before on my journeys. So yeah, certainly a nice smorgasbord of native veg in like a semi-subalpine sort of region as we go through the coldest nights, I suppose, which is usually the first 2 weeks of August. So plenty of hypnum moss around. This is my Twitch TV thing that seemed to work quite well last night for doing long runs. I might just try and keep the camera rolling and see if we can do the full 45 minutes on the card. If that's alright by you, or okay by you. But as you can see, there's patches of water here trickling down, so you never know. Might find the odd patch of banana just growing in some sort of permanent seat. I've only got Crocs on today because it's just the effort. You know, now you can see some cyanophyta growing in the water there. That's a good sign. A few protardas, auriculatas. We may find the odd whittieri as we go further up, hanging on, but you never know. But I've got to watch out for snakes. You know, I keep listening with my ears more than anything. But as I said, it's a compromise between wearing too much clobber and just being totally exhausted by the amount of clobber you're wearing, especially if you're wearing gumboots or something like that. A few whittieri down there, nothing too much to write home about. And then later on up there we'll start coming across planchonii and hopefully the occasional PRAEFOLIA that's still hanging on. They won't be as resplendent as they are right at the beginning of the season, of course, but just to show you how damp this is, how late in the season. Yeah, the ground is still wet here, and well, there's a termite mound. As you know, up in the Northern Territory, termite mounds are basically classed as the vegetable cows of the nation. And of course they become food for the lizards, which is why now we've got the dangerous jelly mould and another species of terrestrial native orchid. This is very dangerous, especially with crocs, so I've got to watch out for that. I'm probably going to have to go down to, you know, gear 1, if not less, gear 0.5 or something, if I get too much of that later on. That's also another reason I didn't want to go other times of the year, because if it gets too wet, you get too much of that, and it's just, yeah, it's just deadly. I almost cracked the camera lens a couple of years ago when I slipped over. So, but what do you think of the sunlight? It's quite nice, isn't it? I cleaned the wide angle lens this morning. Hopefully I did a reasonably good job. I'm not getting too many flares or smudges on the, probably am. Oh, there's a bee. See if I can go around it. Okay. So when I had my boots on and the clobber and things like that, this part of the journey seemed to take forever, but I don't know, it seems a lot quicker now wearing Crocs. But as I say, it's the compromise between going light and you know, from the 3rd week of October onwards, you just wouldn't even dare come in here without some sort of protection like boots or something, and then you'd just be going at a crawling pace. But yeah, you can see it's starting to get quite quite heathy, but it was also, as you see, the angle is getting almost up to 35 degrees there. So if you come across any of that jelly mould, which hydrates up after a rain, and it comes absolutely deadly on these sort of like 35 degree slopes. But as you can see, all the little sundews here and there, they're slightly dwarfed, very colourful because of the soil here. And so up there you get some clinker on the tops of the, well, I don't know if you call them cliffs, but you get some clinker up there. And apparently when it gets that sort of ringing metallic sound, it's basically 80% zinc. That's why it gives the metallic ringing sound when you walk on it. So there is a bit of a path up here. Once we actually track it down, it becomes a lot easier. These almost are acting like steps. Do you see that? Falling over trees. Until I get further on and actually get to the promised land, then you can actually see it, and then you know where you're heading. It's like it's down there somewhere. But until you actually get over the crest fall of the what have we got there? No, there's still witty guys. Haven't come across my first PRAEFOLIA yet, and we should start to see those once we start to see the planchonii, and we'll also start to see some other native orchids will come in, different ones. I think we're coming, oh geez, I think I'm getting them really fast. It used to take me like 45 minutes to get here with all the wellies on and things like that. And oh, look at that, isn't that lovely? Yeah, well there you go. I think that's the promised land. I'll see if I can get you the classic shot from the photographs, but in movie form as we come down. I think I used to stand over there somewhere and take the shots. So, bit of Erica there, do something else. Yeah, we're getting to the crest fall. So I think I'll go down to that point there where I usually take the classic shot of the promised land. Because this appears to be a slightly different form. I call this the Cherry Gardens form. Alright, here's other species of orchids on these sort of well, this is a different type of moss now. It's I'm not a moss expert, but it's a classic one, but it's not hypnum. There is one that, like hypnum, can come back you know, within 24-48 hours of being rained on or rained upon heavily. But yeah, you can see the soil, it's just still damp, quite damp too. We're getting there. The climb down here is pretty hard, especially if there's any of this jelly mould going to be around, so I may have to turn the camera off. I don't know. I'll try not to, because I know you want to see it all, just like I want to see it all from your end, you know, when you go out looking for rotundifolia and things like that. I like to see that as well. So I think we're almost there. Oh, it's closed in a bit. More orchids on the ground there. Just an absolute smorgasbord of orchids in this area. So yeah, pea plants in flower. More acacias, wattles. Yeah, here we go, come up to the crestfall. I don't know. There's a lot of trees have grown back, so you don't quite get the same impact or impression as I got all those years ago. I think I first came here in, it was the year before the big boys came over here, so that must be 2004, because they came over in 2005. And I took them here in 2005, and I think they were moderately impressed. I didn't actually get to take them up to the clinker. They probably would have been a bit more impressed if I took them up to the clinker, but I don't think I've got time to do that today. that's really that's a day tripper, and you probably have to wear boots too because it's pretty precarious up there. But we're going to try and go down there and onto that slope that's it's about 40 degrees I reckon, and it's got that jelly mould of it, so it's very dangerous. And as I said, I haven't got the right footwear because I'm doing it this time of year because it'd just be too hot, and that would be dangerous in its own point. You get over, you suffer heat exhaustion. So I think I just have to go very carefully. Another nest, termite nest. But anyway, I'll endeavour to go down here and keep the camera rolling. I don't know when the card's going to run out, but it will tell me, it will give me that beep. I have got another card in my pockets, but I'll try and... It doesn't quite look quite impressive from here, mainly because the sun's coming over, but when you get onto that side, it's like being in a different world. As I say, it's like being in the lost world, being in the promised land or something. Because I said the zinc is one of the elements that seems to be involved in the carnivorous plant syndrome. So, mainly because of the association with cyanobacteria, of course, but it's taken years to work all these interrelationships down and get onto so-called blue chalk. So that mainly came through the this concept of Australian bush and bushfires and ash. What is ash and why is it so alkaline? And experiments I'd done at school in the chem club on ash to determine what ash was. We got quite a big surprise when we actually find out when the data came back to tell us what ash was. That was quite a surprise. And so we did the experiments 3 weeks in a row, and we kept coming up with the same results. And we were under the supervision of one of the top chemists in the state, Mr. Stanley. So, you know, if there was anything wrong, he probably would have spotted it, but he couldn't spot anything. So I remember his statement said, well, if that's what the data is telling you, that's what it is. I mean, so yeah, got to give him his due. He's stuck by the scientific method. If that's what the scientific method is telling you there, and you can't find if you've done anything wrong, well, you're just going to have to accept the findings until you get alternative results, because it's like Einstein says, it's insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting to get different results. 3 weeks in a row we got the same results, so you know, we'd be insane if we didn't accept the results or find a mistake somewhere. But I think I've come down the wrong area. You can hear that running water there. Normally when I normally come down in late May, it's gone down to a trickle, so it could be hard to get across, and I think I've come down at the wrong spot to cross, so I may have to go back up and around, so it's going to be hard, because going back is an absolute nightmare. That's why I don't really like doing this. But I'm making the effort for you, because that's what I do. I make the effort. I do the other things, you know, the extras that no one else bothers about, because I know this is what you want, and I basically expect you to do the same thing your end. You know, I'd like to see rotundifolia in the wild, and a nice field trip about rotundifolia, because whoa, we find it awfully hard to grow here. Some people up in the subalpine regions of Australia seem to grow it reasonably well, but down here it's hard. I've managed to do it once on crushed floor foam. They lasted about 3 months until we got the warm weather, and they just sort of started dying off. Ping, 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 one after the other. It just got too hot for them. But they looked absolutely fabulous before then. I just wish I had a proper camera like this one. I just had a 2 smegger back then. I couldn't even photograph them, they were just a blur. A bit like the glandulus shots I got there in, I think it's 2005. They're just, parts look absolutely lovely and colourful. They're just a blur though. Yeah, I think I'm going to move up and down. Probably a good time to turn the camera off.